absolutely love that video of me leading the team out to glory in the countdown video. It's absolutely superb. Tottenham Hotspur, sign me up. But guys, welcome back to your Thursday debate shows. They are back. I know it's been quite some time, but we are back in full action. As you can see, we've got Shawnee, the Spurs talk show, here every single Thursday. The commitment is unreal. Shawnee, how are you, sir?
Good. Very good. Good to be back with you guys. Good to be back with James and Jack from the Spurs Related. Good to be back with the chat. It's good. It's good to see everybody. Shout out to everybody. Let's lock in and get some Spurs content.
Some would say an ideal show for you, Shawnee, as well. Just my internet's all over the place, Shawnee, so I do apologize, James. As you know, it hasn't improved. But Shawnee, some would say a perfect show to get you on with, all the stuff around Joe Lewis and the light list coming out today and stuff like that. So absolutely fantastic to have you in, my man. And then of course we have the two boys, the dynamic duo from Spurs Related. Boys, how are you keeping? We'll start with you. We'll start with James because I was just stopping him, and then we'll come to Jacko. James, how are you, my man?
Yeah, I'm all good, Dave. Like you said, just been discussing all things about tomorrow with you on Spurs Related. It was good fun. We were talking about all sorts of different nicknames. Even Mercedes Benton Kerr came out or something ridiculous. I don't even know. The Paris Army will probably put me straight.
Mercedes Benton class.
Benton class, that's it. All sorts of names popping off over there. But yeah, Dave, all good, mate. Thanks for having me on.
No, great to have you back on, my man, and great to be back on yours as well. People after this, get over and check it out. But of course, you've got your co-host with you, Jacko. Jacko, how are you keeping, my man?
Mate, I'm doing well. Buzzing to be back with the crew. Obviously, I've got my side man next to me, James, but Sean and Dave. Always love chatting with you boys, especially when Tottenham are high and flying. Well, sort of, but I think what an absolute corker of a game we've got tomorrow, and I'm sure we're going to get into it, and maybe we'll see Tottenham go on a cut run this year. We'll have to wait and see.
Will we be getting one of your famous match day blows?
Oh, of course we will. I'll be there. The man's going back from Bournemouth, and he'll certainly be there. I couldn't miss that one for the world, could I, Dave?
No, definitely you couldn't. They're actually very good, them match day blogs. Keep them coming. But guys, we're not going to waste the boys' time. We're going to run for about an hour. Everyone has stuff to do this evening, but I'm just going to quickly welcome some people in. Big up Adrian Schrocker. Good to see you, sir. Davey Homer, man, great to see you. Says, big up the crew. Levy doesn't want to spend, and that's one reason why we're rich. We've got a good manager. Just give him the tools to win things. We'll definitely be getting on to a conversation about stuff like that in a minute, my man. Also, big up Big Pants as well. They now have the cash to enlarge their trophy room. I suppose you could take it like that. Big up Iceman. Good evening, fellas, and everyone in the chat. Hope you all had a great week. Ange Ball just over 24 hours away. Yeah, we are back in action, my man. Big up Talking Bear as well. King Huddle, I'm going to start this, but he says one trophy not good enough, but 14 semis, 6 finals, including the Champions League final. Best stadium in Europe and our richest club in London. He has turned us into one of the biggest and most high-profile clubs in Europe. Big up Mark P as well. Great to see you. He's got 2-1 for tomorrow. Rainman, good to see you. Derek as well. Geordie Hill. Donna Collins in with us this evening. We were surrounded by royalty. Big up Dan guys as well. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. He says you can't believe how quickly this transfer window's flown by. Only 1 week left as of today, my man. Big up Ricky C as well. Great to see you. And then we have this from Paul Markey. Good to see you in the building, Paul Markey. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. He says, cannot understand all this thirst for blue. Gallagher from Chelsea at 40 million when you could get Paulinho for 60 million. What numpty Spurs fans are. Guys, anyone of you want to bite on this from Paul Markey?
Jack loves Paulinho. Go on.
No, I do, to be fair. In my walking and talking with Jacko, I was saying that I would love to see a specialist number 6, and I think Paulinho kind of fits that mould. But I've also kind of been a bit of an advocate for Conor Gallagher, kind of saying that he fits the homegrown quota, but he's also kind of someone who can fill in multiple positions, and kind of stealing a march on Chelsea would kind of make my day as well. Kind of take their captain away from them would be a good sign. But look, I think both are good players, and I would agree. I think Paulinho would be a better option, but I don't think it's Football Manager. We can't make all these signings in one January transfer window. But look, if he's there available, I'll definitely bring him in.
Makes sense, if you wanted to stretch to 20 million, people would argue it's definitely there after today's delights listing. Shawnee, where are you at with it? Would you stretch that extra 20 million and go for Paulinho over Conor Gallagher?
I'm a fan of Paulinho. I really am. He's a dirty player though. He's a really dirty player. Like I don't, I'm not sure I like him. I do really like him. I think that the Fulham will be in trouble in the summer. I think Fulham will have financial issues in the summer. They're very close right now. I think that they're going to need to like the threshold of how close they are to the line is pretty serious. So I think that there might be some forced sales. So I wouldn't necessarily pay 60 million right now. I like I say, I've been an advocate right now for loaning players until the end of the season. Maybe you can get a decent deal because a team might be worried about just slipping over the wrong side of the line. I don't know if Fulham would be interested in that, and Palhinha probably not. But I don't want Tottenham to commit to a 50 million pound signing right now. I'd rather keep our powder dry and see what the summer looks like. I think June is going to be a crazy month because every team has got to get their reports ready for the 30th of June, and you won't know how you do with like clubs that are right on the periphery. They won't know how close they are to breaching that threshold until they finish the season with their various campaign prize money from the Premier League, etc. So I just got a feeling there's going to be 3 or 4 clubs that are going to be really stressing over their accounts, not just in the Premier League, but I think there'll be some in Europe as well. So for different reasons, but so I'd rather keep our powder dry. So for that reason, if you're talking about right now, I don't really want Gallagher, and I don't really think we should do Palhinha either. I'd like to do us a little short-term loan job, and then see where we are in the summer.
Interesting. James, would you concur with Sean? Because the other counter-argument would be Palhinha is definitely gettable. It was only not so long ago he looked like he was ready to sign for Bayern Munich.
Well, that's what I was about to say, mate. I think we're going to see Bayern Munich go back in for him. He's had a media day in a Bayern Munich shirt. That's how close he was to joining them. So, listen, if we could get a Palhinha, I'm all for it. 60 million pounds. It's a lot of dough, but at the same time, we've smashed out 50 million on Brennan Johnson. I think he's like Palhinha. I think he's
28.
He's still, he's got a bit of shelf life still to him. Yeah. I think 60 million isn't as mad as you think. And if Sean's right in saying that, they're going to have some financial fair play, maybe we could see him, leaving for sort of maybe a 50, 55 mil, or maybe they want to even hard bargain even more. But
how long ago did they buy him? How long has he been at Fulham for?
Oh, he's been there a couple of years now, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been there.
How much they paid for him? Sorry, this shouldn't be a Palhinha show, but just
tax in on there, Jack. Have you got the details?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I remember us being linked with him when he was he at Sporting Lisbon, I think it was, and a lot of fans wanted him at the time. And then obviously he went to Fulham. I think two summer transfer windows ago, I think.
20 million in 2022. There you go.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, so they've amortized a little bit of that. So if they were to sell him for 60, 70 million or 60 million, then that would get them out of a financial hole. If they're in one. We'll find out if they're in one.
Does that change your perspective then, Sean?
No, I'm a big fan of him. Like if we want to get it done, like listen, I've got no idea around how many clubs, if any, and how close they are. But I've got a really interesting, I've got a really funny feeling that there's going to be some interesting opportunities in the summer. And so for me to like get on board doing something now, it has to be a really perfect player, perfect signing, someone that the entire club, the coaching staff, the scouts, everybody thinks is perfect for what we need. And Palhinha might be that guy.
Sean,
if he is, I'm okay with it. I like him. I think he's a really good player.
Sure, Sean, just a quick one. You sort of were a bit hesitant, given the fact he's a bit of a dirty player. Doesn't that fit perfectly into our worst disciplinary record in the Premier League? Whatever it is.
This is the thing, and also like he's obviously a straight number 6, right? So if you're going to spend 60 million, then do you slot him in and he's first choice every week? And if so, what does that mean for Bissouma? What does that mean for Bentancur? What does that mean for Pape Sarr? You can only then play two of the 3.
Competition.
Right? Competition. Yeah. Okay.
That's where we need to get to.
Yeah, I know. It's definitely where we need to get to. 100%. I agree with you. Yeah.
Do you also think that this high price, 60 million, 70 million pounds, like Sean, you alluded to, in the summer, if you've got more opportunistic buys, and like we say, we know Levy's been smart with his money, we could probably get someone of the same caliber for maybe half the price, because at the end of the day, Premier League tax is real. We know you're going to have to pay over the odds for players of that caliber. Do you think it would be worth talking about it out loud, actually waiting and then making a couple smart purchases rather than spending so much money on a 6 when you've already got Bentancur who's thriving in that role, especially right now for the 6 months before the summer.
Yeah. Look, for me personally, like I like the idea. I think Dave mentioned him a couple of weeks back. Dave, I was streaming with you. You're a fan of that Kefram Touram, right? From is it Nice or Lyon or wherever he plays up in France? Like I think he's a really handy player. And I think you could get him for pennies in the pound versus what you're paying for Polinia. I like Zubamendi. I think Zubamendi's awesome. I know he's more of a double pivot 6 at Real Madrid, but you know, the way that we play, you could argue that we always have a second pivot there to work with anyway. I think he's awesome. I really like his playing partner, Mikel Merino. I think he's class as well. So I think there's options out there, you know, that don't look like Conor Gallagher. They don't have to look like Conor Gallagher. And they also don't have to look like one of these young Adam Wharton types. You know, Adam Wharton looks like he might be going to Palace, but we don't have to go down the young path and we don't have to stay in the Premier League. There's plenty of talent out there. And, you know, they're not going to cost 60 million quid. And in terms of value, I think, like I say, I just think they may keep, for me, if it was me, it would have to be the perfect sort of right player now to make it
like a Maddison almost. Like we saw when Maddison come in, everyone knew the caliber he was bringing and we wanted him for ages. But right now, you don't almost want to disrupt the squad or the fight. We're clear. I think it came out the other day that we're the 8th richest club in world football currently as well. So I guess you want to keep that up and then really financially invest in the sum, because that's when the project is, we're only 6 months into it. That's when it fully gets going, in my opinion. That's what they've been planning for. And
guys, if we want to save some, if you know, Dave's again, I'm sure you guys feel the same, but Dave's always talking about we need an absolute marquee striker. Those things aren't cheap right now. So as much as we might be the richest club in London, you know, finding 80, 90 million quid to be able to put towards a striker means that you have to be a little bit more frugal elsewhere. So,
well, listen, Sean,
maybe you can't do it all with Polinia as well.
Listen, Sean, we have got the F1 go-kart track that's going to rake in about £50 million in the first few weeks soon, mate. So, you know, we've got a bit on the extra budget there.
I'm definitely going to go and do that. I'm looking forward to that. Me and David. That'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be like the Luigi brothers, what are they called? Mario brothers. You know, Luigi and Mario would be absolutely brilliant. But got a big up Peter Paul Markey. Just quickly, my man. You know, does that mean then you don't want Ederson? I know Tottenham have been linked with him out at Atlanta. So let me know what your thoughts are on him being our sort of resident South American football expert, my man. Big up Paul Markey. And then we're going to welcome one more to the stream, and then I'm going to kick on with what I have in the documents here. We also have Emily Dunn, big up the missus. She says, very handsome looking panel today. Come on, you Spurs. Well, I thought that compliment was only reserved for me. I guess not. So, guys, we're all handsome according to Emily. I don't think so, but according to the missus, she thinks you're all handsome. So, big up her. And then also big up Tyler as well, member for 19 months. Send Højbjerg and Skip on their way and get in a real defensive midfielder. Hope everyone's having a great day. Come on, you Spurs. Neutral's our future. Get him. Just when it comes to Nusa, I did see sort of reports earlier on. Now, I know they weren't reliable, sort of, but, you know, could we see movement, you know, sort of some point today or this evening? So if you guys are keeping an eye on that, alert me to it as soon as you see it. But look, in terms of Højbjerg and Skip, ideally you want both of them gone between now and the end of the summer and sort of bring in players that suit that midfield more, that have more energy and more legs about them to suit the Ange system. But Tyler, we will be talking about outgoings, my man. So I'm going to start that and we will get onto it. We're just going to welcome one more into the stream and then we're going to crack on and get into talking all about the news that has dropped the last 2 days. And the last one in is Soren. Big yourself up, my man. How you keeping?
Too bad. It looks like the good looks have just gone downhill quickly, haven't they? Now I've joined.
We'll ask her.
Soren, you could say it's gone downhill. You could say it's gone down the cellar, mate. It looks like that's where you are.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was going to say the silver fox, but it hasn't quite gone that grey yet.
Well, look, we could call you the silver fox for this evening if it strokes your ego, my man, for sure. But guys, let's get into it. Of course, you know, the Deloitte sort of money list league was released its annual report on world football finances today based on close financial records from the 22-23 season, and it shows that Tottenham are now the 8th richest club in world football. And I want to know basically off the panel, and we'll start with you, Sean, and work our way around, but, you know, does it reflect negatively or positively on the ownership? Because, you know, the argument that is out there and the massive split that's in the fan base is, You know, you've got one side that believe Daniel Levy's done an absolute unbelievable job in terms of growing this football club and, you know, implementing his sort of vision for it. But then you've also got the other side of the argument where, you know, one trophy in 23 years, it's nowhere near good enough. And it's great having the finances and the stadium and the facilities and stuff like that. But what's the point if we're just going to be winning on financial tables instead of league tables?
Well, yeah, no, I think it's something to celebrate. Look, the job of the chairman is to keep you sustainable, and it's to provide you with the funding to be able to do what you can do. Unfortunately, the money that we've taken and spent on transfers hasn't elevated Tottenham to the right level. And look, you know, we've obviously really struggled with our inability to offload some of these players. We've been buying, you know, we've still got players hanging around from 4 years ago purchases under a previous director of football, an entirely different period under Tottenham. And we're still going through that process. But all the while, you know, we've managed to get ourselves to position 8, the number 1 in London, 550 million pounds worth of revenues. And like I say, the role and responsibility of the chairman is to do what he has to do within the rules. And he's been doing that. If we were to be able to also add a couple of extra parts to our revenue mix, we could compete with the likes of Manchester City and Real Madrid and get right to the very top of that ladder. And I think we're now moving into a second phase where we're going to be able to do that. The difference between Tottenham's revenue stream, this is revenue, by the way, not profitability. So the name richest club, it's a little bit of a kind of misnomer. And I used it on my video this morning about it. You know, it's been sort of, that's what's been bandied around today, but it's not about sort of wealth, so to speak. It's about revenue generation. And Tottenham are missing obviously 2 major elements that could make us get us to the very top. One of them is consistent deep runs into the Champions League. That, you know, the prize money you get as you go further, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and final, it grows exponentially. With that stuff also comes higher consistent streams from your sponsorships that we do well with, but could obviously do better. And like I say, you know, the only other 2 things where Tottenham can really look to find additional value every year. One is naming rights, which is probably about 7 or 8, maybe 9% additional revenues could come from that. Although the argument to sell your club's name to a brand, there's obviously indirect kind of byproduct negatives that come from that, which I'll probably save for a different part of the conversation. And player sales, right? Player sales. Teams like Manchester City they do wonderful things at being able to bring in the revenue by selling players that they no longer need, whether they're at their peak of their powers or as a player or whether they're young players. Tottenham haven't done it apart from with Harry Kane, and that was kind of forced. And throughout the years of the Daniel Levy tenure, most of our big name players have left us when they've thrown the towel in and demanded to go. Tottenham have never been someone who's able to really sell players at peak and then kind of recycle that money. Part of that is because we've bought players that aren't desirable to the rest of the market that do have the money. Another part of that is that the rest of European football is broke. But there's another way to do it, right? And that is to go and generate opportunities via buying up the best talent, getting a youth team that excels, and the players within it who aren't all going to make it at Tottenham Hotspur. If you can sell some of those 10 here, 20 there, 25, you know, here and there, that's another way to generate, you know, wonderful revenue streams. All of that being said, that's got absolutely nothing to do with the 23 years of one trophy. The chairman's job is to generate money and to put it back and to keep us sustainable, keep us as a going concern, and offer the best opportunity for the scouts and the manager and everyone else to do that, to put their best foot forward. And to a degree, we've done it, right? How many is it? 6? I think we saw it in the first super chat. 6 finals, 11 semi-finals, or whatever it was over 21 years. We've had a lot of opportunities to get the silverware. We haven't quite got over the line, but we've been doing most of that during a period where other clubs, the most successful clubs, have often been sugar daddy ownership where the rules haven't been implemented. So we're coming into a new era of football right now, one where if you breach financial rules, you're going to get punished, or hopefully held accountable for it, and one where you're going to be rewarded with opportunities for being financially prudent. And Daniel Levy, you can think what you want about him as a chairman. For me, he's one of the top 3 chairmen in the Premier League, and I'm really glad that he's a part of Tottenham Hotspur.
Interesting. So guys in the comments, let me know whether you agree or disagree with Sean on that. We'll hand over to you, James. I mean, look, good breakdown by Shawnee there, but you know, he says one thing there that you know, the chairman, you know, he's doing his job. His job is to bring in revenue. But is it also his job to help the club get over the line? You know, you look at the list of, you know, semi-finals and finals here that King Huddle is alluding to. But as Daniel Levy always sort of, you know, reinvested that money into the squad as best as he can to be able to give them the help to get over the line. Because you go back to Pochettino, we had a great 11, but outside of that, we didn't really have much. Where do you stand on the sort of revenue news? Should it be reflected on positively or negatively when you weigh it up to the trophies?
Yeah, no, I think what Sean said there makes complete sense. You know, we're entering a new era with, you know, big implications if teams don't follow the rules. But like you just said there, Dave, the Poch era, and Jack and I actually did a video on this. You know, does Daniel Levy deserve more credit? Video, and it got a lot of response, both positive and negative. But you know, when we had that team with the likes of Moussa Dembele, Harry Kane, Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen, Toby, Jan, you know, Walker, Rose, I would argue, and many fans would argue, that we were one or two signings away from winning something big. And I mean, like, you can go back to 2016, 17, where we made it to cup finals and we were just not good enough in the final. We almost needed some extra legs off the bench for the final 30 minutes, 20 minutes to change the game, where we were chasing a goal deficit. And, you know, that's where I would argue it hasn't been right in the last few years. And I know a lot of that, and Sean will put me right, is because we had to be careful with what we were spending because of the stadium. But at the same time, you know, if we would have invested maybe 40-50 million pound more, I know that's a lot of money, we could have potentially got 2 or 3 trophies since 2008. So that's where I stand on it. I think Sean's right. You know, Daniel Levy has done a fantastic job at bringing revenue into this club and putting us as a stable foundation. But, you know, at the same time, the thing that upsets me the most as a fan is the fact that we had the best starting 11 probably in the Premier League at the time, and our bench, similar to now, even though we're starting to get over that hurdle, was just shocking. Let's be honest. We're talking about George, Kevin and Kudu, Clinton and Jai, you know, just absolute dross on the bench. And unfortunately, we paid the price by not winning trophies.
And I think, you know, especially for me, the footballing side of things, it really derailed with sort of Steve Hitchen. You know, a lot of the signings, you go back through them, you know, they've been absolutely piss poor for this football club, especially in terms of on the pitch. I mean, just quickly, we'll throw this to Shawnee from Steve D, and then we'll head down to you, Jack. Shawnee, Steve D says, is the turnover figure misleading? Not the same as profitable, although I'm sure the financials are good.
Yeah. It's certainly not what we care about, right? Like, revenue is important more for the FFP. So just to keep it really simple, you've got 2 different jarringly competing set of rules you have to stay within. One of them is FFP and one of them is PSR. In the Premier League, obviously you face both, but the PSR is that you can't lose money. You can't lose any more than 105 million quid over a 3-year period. Tottenham aren't going to do that, right? So we're fine. And the other thing is, and the FFP is about net spending on the combination of your revenue, of your wages, your transfer fees, and your agents' fees as a percentage of the amount of revenue you bring in. So it's really important to raise the top number as high as you can, so that you can then raise the amount of money that you can spend on a combination of all those 3 things. And so to a degree, yes, it is misleading because it's not about profitability. This is about revenue. And for example, if you were to look at the actual Deloitte article, it would say that Barcelona is the 4th richest club in the world. They have the 4th, I think it's the 4th highest revenues. But in reality, Barcelona are broke. They have got so much debt, and they have to pay out any profitability they do to a bunch of different stakeholders and things. So it is misleading. But within that Deloitte detail, what it does actually show is Tottenham's, this is for last year's accounts, Tottenham's wages as a percentage of the revenue is 46%. So if Tottenham next year have to stay within 80% of the combination of wages, fees for transfers and agents' fees below, I think it's 80% next year. It might even be 70% next year, which is the final number. Then Tottenham having a wages ratio of 46% allows us to have about 26 to 30%, whatever it is, to spend on the rest. And even though 46% sounds like a lot, it's a lot lower than a lot of our competition. Teams like Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, Arsenal, they all have, and Newcastle definitely all have wage ratios that are far higher, and that's why they have to sell some of their highest earners and best players. Tottenham are incredibly frugal in that department, and with the offlaying this year of Harry Kane's wages, Lloris's wages, and Eric Dyer's wages, we're going to look even better in that department when next year's results come out in about 13 months' time. So we're set up really well, and for that tick, anyone that wants to reflect on the past and the absence of trophies, fine. But the past is the past. The present and the future look pretty rosy when it comes to Tottenham's finances.
Well, there you are, Steve D. Great breakdown by Shawnee. Guys, if there is any questions you want to put to the panel, either put them in the chat, or if you feel like and you're enjoying the show and you want to support it, why not send it in a super chat? But look, we'll move on down to you, Jack. I think, look, most people, even the most, staunch, what you would call, Levy outer, would sort of say, look, finance is absolutely superb. No problem with that. The amount of diverse revenue streams, great. But when do we see it on the footballing side? Because there is an argument, you win trophies, it brings you bigger sponsors, brings you more sponsors, which also generates, revenue and stuff like that. So when do we see the great finances implemented on the football pitch? Because I'd argue we're sort of starting to get back similar where we were with Pochettino, young, hungry players who want to go and achieve something. But will we add that sparkle, that sprinkling to it that we didn't under Pochettino? So when do we see the finances replicated on the pitch?
Exactly, and I think it's kind of a case where is Daniel Levy going to right his wrong? Because I don't think anyone can argue that Daniel Levy has built a football club that is going to be sustainably profitable for many years to come. He's kind of built the stadium now, he's brought in the training ground, and he's kind of made Tottenham this financial powerhouse where we can now reap the benefits on the pitch. I think we've kind of had a bit of bad luck in the Pochettino era where we just didn't quite get over the line. We had the players, but it didn't quite fall for us. And yes, there's an argument, obviously, where we didn't invest in certain scenarios where we could have pushed on. But now I'd like to think that you kind of realise, well, actually, football is a squad game. It's not just the first 11. So if you give Postecoglou the tools, then you're going to see the benefits. I think with Pochettino, he had a year where he finished 5th, and people were talking about, is he the right manager? And then obviously we saw what happened. He was absolutely fantastic for us. Yes, it didn't end in a trophy, but we can't argue that Pochettino, the era, was brilliant, especially in my lifetime as a Tottenham fan. He was my favourite manager. But now with Postecoglou, we're already ahead in that project. We're currently 5th in the league. We're playing some of the best football that I've seen. And I feel like now it's Daniel Levy's opportunity, especially in the summer, to prove that the stadium is now built. We've got a fantastic manager, and we've still got a couple of world-class players. There's no reason that we shouldn't be financially investing in top players now that we can definitely attract as well. There's not going to be an excuse there, especially if we get Champions League football. I think now is the time to really show that he's built this football club commercially at the top level. Now the players on the pitch need to match that, and then you could see a really successful Tottenham side winning trophies, being financially sustainable, and kind of really competing with the best. And for me, this is extremely exciting times. We've been there before, but I've got a funny feeling that this time it could come with some silverware.
Yeah, so do I. I just hope that, come the summer, they're willing to sort of really push the ball out and sort of, sprinkle that team with a bit of magic, especially in that forward area. And then add it, by bringing them into the first team in that forward area, the players that we're using now will be adequate backups, in my opinion, or sort of squad players going forward. But Soren, my man, over to you. I mean, again, sort of, when do we come out of this club that's, looking to be able to sort of generate all the different revenue streams to be able to compete with the likes of a Man City and stuff like that? Because you'd argue, look at Liverpool. They don't have the financial muscle power that Man City have, but they're still able to compete. So when do we come away from being that club that's just trying to be able to gather enough money to be able to hit the windows like these top clubs and actually start doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that we've got to remember is Tottenham Hotspur is kind of running two ways. You've got the footballing side, then you've got the business side. The business side is where it should be now. There's kind of no excuses. I mean, you listen to a lot of fans, and it's been 23 years with one trophy, 14 semi-finals out and 6 finals. Well, that could have easily been 6 trophies and 14. It could have worked anyway. But look, 5-6 years ago, we were promised a brand new stadium. We were promised that was the beginning of everything. It's here now. There's no more excuses. Daniel Levy has not got a rock to climb under anymore. He's got to deliver now. And we've got a manager now that most of us are getting behind. Most of us are excited. King Oddle put there that there was 14 semis. I think there's more than 14 semis with most of us men these days watching Tottenham Hotspur play. You know, it's such an exciting time. And if we don't start to back this manager, whether it's slowly or gradually or all of a sudden, you just get the feeling it's turning. If he suddenly stops, then he's got to go. You know, he's built a club that is absolutely fantastic business-wise now. He's got everything in place. Everybody that slates him and wants Enoch and Levy out, let's see what happens now, because there's no more excuses. We are, as much as we want to say it, we are a financial power now. We've got everything in place. We've got the structure. But it all now depends on whether UEFA and FIFA and all that will actually back this FFP up. Because if they suddenly don't do anything with Chelsea and Man City, then it's all for nothing. It doesn't matter how much we've put in place, the business-wise. It doesn't matter about the F1 track. It doesn't matter about the Beyonce concerts. It doesn't matter about anything if FFP is not backed to the hilt by everybody in the power. If it is, Tottenham should now come out and be one of the strongest teams to be able to dip into the transfer market and get what we want. Now, when Sean talks about finance, he knows exactly what he's talking about. The only thing I worry about going forward, if we keep buying these young players and selling them, is the fan base going to split again and say we're a selling club? That's the only worry that you sort of see forward. Now, I get where Sean's coming from and saying but hopefully we buy these young players now for the future to make our club the one that everybody wants to come and play for.
Yeah, I'm not even necessarily just mentioning, the likes of the players that are coming through the youth. I'm okay with Tottenham selling players in our first team. If the right money comes along, if the right offer comes along, look, Liverpool's number one catalyst why they went on and did what they did a few years ago was when they sold Coutinho at peak value. They got 130 million quid or whatever it was for him at peak value. A lot of Liverpool fans at the time were like, what are we doing here? But Liverpool had a plan, right? They'd already identified that they needed two big sort of pieces of the puzzle. But Liverpool's owners are not the sort of owners. They're quite similar, as much as to Daniel Levy, is that they're not going to go and raid the piggy bank of their wealth, their personal wealth, to support the club. So they did it that particular way, and they absolutely got it right. Tottenham's, for me, I often think that Daniel Levy, look, some of the criticism that he gets given around meddling in the transfers, over-haggling, over-egging the pudding, I get all that. I totally get it, and I think that he should have stepped back a long time ago. And I think that what we're seeing of him now is, I think he's seen the error of his ways. We've hired a hell of a lot more, experts in scouting and new directors of football and all of these different things. And I think that Scott Munn is a bit of an enigma at the moment. I personally think he's here to do something a lot more bigger term in terms of multi-club ownership and that sort of thing. But anyway, my point being, I think he's learning. He's human. But I would also make the argument that he has, let's just use Postecoglou as an example. I think thus far he has given what Postecoglou has asked for. Postecoglou has come out and said every player that comes into this club, into this squad, I have okayed. And after that, it's not up to Daniel Levy to get the best out of Brennan Johnson. It's up to Brennan Johnson, the scouts and the manager, and to pick the tactics. It's not up to Daniel Levy to get the team ready for tomorrow, like we almost weren't against Burnley. We barely turned up against Burnley because we didn't, I don't know why we didn't fancy it on the day, but we did like we've had a track record of doing a lot in the cups. It's not Daniel Levy's fault that we lost to Nottingham Forest. It's not Daniel Levy's fault we lost to Middlesbrough. It's not Daniel Levy's fault we lost to Colchester or Norwich or any of those things. It's not Daniel Levy's fault that we lost on penalties against Manchester United in the cup, a few years back. It's not Daniel Levy's. At some point, it's okay to do the buck stops at the top thing, but ultimately, when it comes to what happens on the football pitch, responsibility is handed over to the training, to the coaches, to the scouts who identify the players, and to the manager and the players themselves to bring the best out of it. I don't think you can.
Is he guilty of trusting the wrong people in that department then, Sean? You know,
Yeah,
because
he
Steve
certainly made
Hitchen,
mistakes.
look how much of the club's money he went on and allowed that guy to spend. He spent them more than what Paratici has, and look at the drastic difference.
Yep. No, look, listen, 100%. If you want to use the
just to be devil's advocate there, though, it's always Daniel Levy's fault when it goes wrong, but when it goes right, it's never down to him.
correct, and that's the way that that's the way that the argument is usually portrayed, right? Like, someone's guilty. If Postecoglou's pulled a rabbit out of a hat here, if he didn't work out, he wasn't back. Same with Conte. Same with what I just like consistency in a debate and an argument. For me, I'm okay with people that want to hold Daniel Levy's feet to the fire going forward. I'm okay with those people who are frustrated about the past. It is what it is. People aren't perfect. Postecoglou isn't perfect. He might very well okay a player. The scouting team may have figured out all of the ins and outs and the intricate data analysis and figure out that this particular player, Antonio Nusa, might be the best player in the world. Every single one of us as a fan might think, yes, please go and get Antonio Nusa. And Antonio Nusa might come to London and fall into the wrong crowd and something might happen. And you can't predict that stuff. There's no perfect recipe. You just have to hope that you get the majority of your decisions right and as few of them as wrong as possible. And then ultimately there's a little bit of luck that comes into the mix as well. I'd like everyone to kind of hold Daniel Levy accountable for the things that he is ultimately responsible for. And for me personally, as someone who does take an interest in the finances, I give him a pat on the back and applaud him for doing what he is really here to do, what he's directly responsible for. I think he's done better than the vast majority of other chairmen out there. For sure, he's made mistakes. For sure, he's got involved in things he shouldn't have done, and for sure, he's hired the wrong people at times. But overall, I remember being a 90s kid under Alan Sugar. I remember going to White Hart Lane and seeing us getting our asses handed to us quite regularly in the Premier League and in cup games. And I much prefer this version of Tottenham than the Alan Sugar version.
Do you know what? I do understand, what you're saying, but to a degree, I do disagree. I think as a chairman of a football club, you're ultimately responsible over, yes, the finances and the business side, but also the footballing side. It's up to you to make sure you're employing the right people. It's up to you to realize what other scouting networks and who's at the head of the game and try and make sure you're staying on top of it or employing the right people to stay on top of it. And he has employed the wrong people at times. We heard how bad that scouting department was when Paratici walked in here. It was non-existent. How's it being allowed to get to that point? How was Steve Hitchen allowed to spend 300-400 million of the club's coffers and drag us from a Champions League finalist club all the way down to a club that finished more or less outside of Europe by the time of his dregs of what he brought in here was sort of on its way out? So for me, I do take what you're saying, but I do think he does have to take some accountability on the footballing side, because ultimately it is him that sort of employs them, and it's up to him to make sure that they're doing the best with all the money that he brings in. And that's where the sort of big argument comes from. Has that money that we're generating always been spent right on the footballing side? Because at the end of the day, it is a football club they bought, so the football should matter. Look, I do think
it has no Dave, right? Now, in those just quickly in those moments, like I say, if we're doing the buck stops at the top argument, and therefore everything that's happened at Tottenham Hotspur is ultimately Daniel Levy, the good and the bad, and then that's fine. It's a fine argument if that's the way we want to do it. Then it's okay to point out the drop off since the Champions League final. But it's also then, if you're going to say that with the same sentence, in the same paragraph, you have to remind everyone that we got to the Champions League final under Daniel Levy. And if the buck stops at the top, then he is responsible for that. He's also responsible for Tottenham's highest Premier League or highest ever league finish twice since the 1961 double season. So if we're going to remind and remember all the things that Daniel Levy, as the buck stops at the top,
look,
he did wrong, then we also have to remember all the things that he's done right.
No, look, I fully understand what you're saying, and he does deserve credit for all them things. Ultimately, he got things right, employed the right people to be able to make that happen. But to your argument, yes, back in the 90s and stuff like that, you turn up to the stadium, you get your ass whooped and stuff like that. At the end of the day, with less money, we won more trophies and we were competing more than what we do now. And one trophy over 23 years. Yes, we can say, about the Champions League final, but when it came to it, did we really have the squad? For me, that's more the players on the night. And yes, you got to give credit to him for the people he's employed to bring their players here. but he's the one that pulled the finances on that project for the likes of the stadium and that, which I understand. But, you know, I'd argue he still has to take blame for the football inside. I don't think you can absolve him of blame for the football inside like you were trying to do.
I'm not absolving him of anything. I'm very much saying I think that you take the bitter with the better. I think you have to acknowledge all of the things. I would also say that people look at his tenure and look through a very Tottenham-focused lens and ignore the fact that in his 20 years of being a chairman of Tottenham, 23 years, we've seen a third-party variable that has completely changed brought in a completely new era of football, and that was the financial side of it. You know, we were competing. It was the most successful team. The two most successful teams in the last 20 years, Chelsea and Manchester City. What do they have in common? Sugar daddy ownership that could come in and spend as much money as they wanted before the rules were set up or before the rules had any teeth. The only other teams that were successful with the very, very well recognized and acknowledged exception of Leicester City are the clubs that have always been the biggest clubs in Europe or the biggest clubs in the Premier League anyway. And I would argue, I'd love people I'll shut up after this last sentence because I'd love to know all the three of your opinions and also the guys in the chat. Would you rather be Tottenham Hotspur or would you rather be Leicester City? Knowing that Leicester City spent 15 of the last 23 years in the Championship, came up, had a bit of success for a couple of years and are now right back where they started and are in financial ruins because of bad ownership. Bad financial management, bad ownership. I think whether the CEO of Leicester City had a heart attack or a stroke or something, and then the whole thing fell apart when it went to their sons. So I don't know. Would you rather be Leicester or would you rather be Tottenham? I would rather be Tottenham all day long.
I can't answer that question, Sean, until we've seen the next few years in this tenureship. Like at the end of the day, if we win a trophy in the next 2-3 years, we'll be 100% saying Tottenham, won't we? But unfortunately, there's going to be people in the comments, and to an extent, I do agree, that feeling of winning a Premier League, Leicester fans will never, ever forget about that. And I understand they're in the Championship now, and it's, you know, who wants to be there at the end of the day. But that buzz, like, you know, in my lifetime, I've seen one Carling Cup, right? One Carling Cup. That's all I've seen. It is a lot of pain at the end of the day. And I know we can't expect to win trophy after trophy after trophy. But at the same time, like I mentioned earlier, the fact we were so close so many times, it still does hurt. And I'm sure a lot of people feel the same. Probably Jack, being a similar age, feels the same as well. I just want to get over that line. I want to experience a trophy. So at the moment, I would genuinely probably say, of course, at the moment, I'd rather be a Tottenham fan. You know, you can't get rid of that. But over the last few years, you could argue Leicester have been more successful because they've won trophies, mate. They've won an FA Cup and they've won a Premier League.
I think they've been more successful twice. They've had more failure 21 times.
Yeah, and then the other point is, and I don't want to open another can of worms here, but someone else in the comments put, you know, Man City have won God knows how many trophies, and they could get punished. They should get punished, but at the end of the day, they've broken the law and they've given their fans some incredible moments. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. That's another kind of
worms, though, isn't it? If they get sent back to the Dark Ages, the Stone Ages, I don't know whether or not anyone will respect any of those trophies.
I mean, it's all right saying it's stained. It's only stained to the fans that aren't City fans. That's the problem. You know, I mean, we
don't know about that.
No, I mean, there's a lot of City fans that won't give a monkeys whether they've cheated or not. There's a lot of Chelsea fans won't give a monkeys whether they've cheated or not. They've won the things. I mean, I can sit here. I've supported Tottenham since the beginning of the 80s, late 70s, 80s. And I would not give up supporting my club for any other club in the world. It doesn't matter what they've won. Doesn't matter whether we've been successful or not. This is my club. It always will be till the day I die. Now, I've got a friend, or I had a friend that was a Leicester City fan, and he saw them lift the trophy, and he died 2 years later. And he said to me, it's the greatest thing he's ever seen. Nobody can ever take that away from him, and that's something I want to see. It's something, these lads want to see. Would I want to see it under being a Chelsea fan? Of course I would. Would I want to see it being a City fan? Of course I would. But I'd rather it be my team that I support. Now, the problem is, if we stop the Premiership now and look back over our tenure for the 20-odd years, it's going to be a failure. That's the problem. We have failed. if we look at it over the next 10 years, we could be even better than City and Chelsea are right now. We don't know what's coming up. You know, the times are exciting. And this is what it's about being a fan. It's what's coming, what's around the corner, what happens next. We you know, had we not had the injuries this year, we could have won the league this year. Under Ange Postecoglou, under Daniel Levy, under Ine, we could have done. We might win it next year. If we win it by doing it the right way, will it make it sweeter? It does.
100%. 1,000,000%. If Tottenham win the league, Tottenham win the league doing it this way versus Manchester City or Chelsea or Arsenal, all those sugar daddy clubs.
You now, Sean, at the time, if we suddenly got a sugar daddy in now and we won the league this year, we'd still celebrate the same. It doesn't matter.
What's the point of getting a sugar daddy now? There's no point in getting a sugar daddy. Look at Newcastle. Newcastle fans must be absolutely sick. They've got the wealthiest family that humankind has ever known buys their club, and they can't spend a penny of it.
No, I get that, but what I'm saying is, but this is where we come back to what I said earlier. As long as they back the FFP rules and make sure that everybody I mean, you look at it now. Everton are about to probably get charged twice in the same season. City have still got nothing, and they're not going to get anything this season. They could win the league this season. The only thing that I hope happens is if they are proven guilty, that every title they've won on the record paper shows no actual team winning it.
100%. It should not be given to the team that finished second.
No,
absolutely not.
It should just be
they're not doing it, there's a whole bunch of different things that would have happened. New timeline.
No name for the last 10 years of winning trophies under Chelsea and City. I mean, that would be perfect. But look, it's one of those right now that there would be no sweeter success if we win the league doing it this way.
100%. That's it. That is it. Because even teams like, I used to respect Arsenal. I used to have massive respect for Arsenal because I was like, even though I can't stand them, they're our arch enemy. They've done it organically, right? Under Arsene Wenger, under the guy, I forget his name now, who was the chairman of the FA and that for a long time, David Dean. Like they had it worked out, right? They were absolutely sensational football club in terms of delivering, value to their. Everything was brilliant. Now these days, they've become sugar daddy. It's not to the same degree as what City and Chelsea were doing, but their owners now are just putting hundreds, 200-300 million quid more in over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years than they should have been, right? So that now they're up against the FFP banner, and I don't respect Arsenal for not living within their means. To me, if a football club can win the league whilst also making ends meet and just being smart about how you raise that revenue number. Going back full circle about the numbers, if Tottenham can do it the right way, it's the purest victory. Yeah. It doesn't even compare to City and City might get away with it because City these days they've already set their business up now before the rules were being implemented. So whether they were or weren't cheating, allegedly, let's assume that they allegedly were cheating a little bit back in the day to some extent. These days they don't need to worry about it. These days they've got their system so on point that they won't be in breach of FFP anymore. But it's whether or not they did back in the day, which is the big question. And if Tottenham can do it the right way, fair play, right? That would be the sweetest, most purest victory, and it would be worth so much more to me than doing it the way Chelsea did it.
Sean, I'm glad you kept talking there because at the start I thought we were going to get a clip saying Sean Spurs talk show respects and idolises Arsene Wenger and Arsenal. I mean, that would have been one for the ages, wouldn't it? Really.
I just want to I just want to bring Jack in just quickly because I think then we have to let him go off for a bit of a training. Jack, Mick Vickers says, I'd rather be Leicester City, memories and glories. I mean, where do you stand on the whole sort of argument? Do you agree with Sean that it feels so much sweeter if you've done it the right way, or in retrospect, doesn't matter, just as long as you win trophies, it's the same feeling anyway?
I think it all comes down to what type of character you are. Look, we all love shiny things, we all love trophies, and Leicester City have won a Premier League and an FA Cup. But the way I see it is we're building something special. We've done it the right way. Daniel Levy is building something that we can see Tottenham in this 60,000 stadium. Our kids can see it, whatever. You're building it for a lifetime. With Leicester City, look at them now, really. They're deteriorating each year. They might even become a yo-yo club. Then they haven't got this fancy stadium. They probably haven't got the best ownership. But with Spurs, we're building something where you can attract players for years to come. And I genuinely do believe, I know this is optimistic, that these days will come. The way football's moving, we've seen with Everton and Nottingham Forest, you're going to get financially punished if you're not working within the means. So for me, that I would rather be in Tottenham's position, but I can see both sides of the story.
That was a great opinion there from Jack and the Gremlins. I have no idea what's going on there, mate. But
there is there's a gremlin in the background, isn't there? Someone's
he's like echoing everything Jack's saying.
Talking about walkie-talkie.
What we'll do is we'll all just turn ourselves on mute when someone else is speaking, and then rather than go individually and find out what's going on there. But look, Tim, Mick Vickers, big yourself up and really appreciate the support, my man. Jack, do you want to go now before we get into the next round of discussions, or?
Yeah, I'll go for it. Lads, thanks for having me on. Cracking chat as always. Guys, big game tomorrow. Watch the matchday vlog if you're up for it. And lads, it's going to be a good one. I'm feeling a Tottenham win. Enjoy the rest of the stream. Subscribe to all the lads on it. Dave and Sean, Soren, good to chat to you. See you later, lads.
Big yourself up, Jack. Really appreciate the time. Everyone, please get over to Spurs Related and check him out. Guys, next thing I want to ask, I don't know whether I should, because we've, I don't know how the next question is going to go about for, but of course, Joe Lewis has sort of pleaded guilty to insider trading in America. Now, I know it doesn't really affect Tottenham Hotspur as he put the club into a trust, and the only real effect they'll have is bad PR maybe around Tottenham's name. And we'll start with you, Soren, on this one. With that all going on now, what do you think the Lewis sort of family trust should do? Do you think they're planning on selling? Should they sell now that Joe Lewis has been found guilty of sort of a crime and stuff like that? Where do you stand on it?
It's a tough one. I mean, as far as I'm aware, Joe Lewis has virtually got nothing to do with the club anymore anyway. Isn't it run by his daughter now? So and she's supposed to be a Spurs fan. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's why tides are turning. Joe Lewis isn't in charge anymore. Maybe it's not all Daniel Levy. Maybe Daniel Levy was on a lease too. But look, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, obviously, it's a taint on our club. It doesn't matter whether he's in charge now or not. Sean's probably the better person to talk about things like this because he understands all that sort of thing. But I mean, to me, the fact that he sort of stood down in 2022 now, so 2 years ago, basically, it's one of those that, however we look at it, it is a taint. He's not in charge of our club anymore. As much as people want to keep saying his name, it's not him. It's a multi-ownership in a sense. I believe it's a trust. Which is kind of overlooked by the daughter and one of the sons or something. So, look, I try not to look at that side of things, but as far as I'm concerned, whatever happens to him, they're not going to sell. She doesn't want to sell from what I understand, so we move on. It's like everybody shouting for Levy and Enoch out. It ain't happening, so move on. Just get on with it, and that's all we can do.
Sean, what do you think if you were to predict what's coming down the line? With him being, do the family want Tottenham Hotspur? In your prediction, do you think maybe they're looking at selling? Because before all this came about, there were a few discussions or a few reports of him being out meeting with that guy, what's his name, out in Singapore or somewhere like that, or out in the Bahamas. They've sort of potential discussions with QSI and stuff like that. If you were to hazard a guess, what do you think's coming down the line off the back of Joe Lewis pleading guilty? Because obviously he put it in the trust so that Tottenham wouldn't be affected and stuff like that. But what do you think's coming down the line?
Yeah, I think. Well, according to reports, he might face a year or two in prison. I'd be very surprised if they would have put an 87-year-old guy in prison. But it's America, and America don't mind doing that sort of thing. I don't think it would happen if this was in the UK. And maybe they need to send a message, that they need to occasionally the Southern District of New York that looks after that stuff. They like to kind of go after big figureheads to sort of give off the vibe that no one's above the law when it comes to financial fraud, even though that stuff happens all the time in a million different ways within you know, I won't even get into the American politics stuff, but it's
Yeah.
I think they might put him in prison. In terms of how a Tottenham affected, we're not. You know, he, like I say, he's separated from it. In terms of should he sell the club, like if he's not, you know, ENIC is a massive organization. He just happens to be the kind of chairman of it. But you know, I don't necessarily think that it matters anymore with regard. He's never been involved with Tottenham. It's not. I don't think it's really a stain unless you want it to be, unless you're looking for a reason to think of it. And in terms of what will ENIC do, look, he's on his way out anyway, right? He's not going to be around in the next 10 years in all likelihood, unless he seriously you know, outlives expectations. But ENIC will carry on. It's a family business, so I would expect them to do whatever they think is necessary with regards their portfolio. And with the way that Tottenham, or the way that the football clubs continue to rise in valuations, I don't expect them to sell. I already said I personally think that Scott Munn has been brought in with the specific role of, whilst he's overlooking certain other areas and being in charge of whatever he's doing, I also think that he is going to be responsible for setting up a multi-club ownership model at Tottenham. I think Tottenham will get back into it. We've got form. ENIC were part of that before. They were one of the groundbreakers on the entire multi-club ownership model long before it was a popular thing. And I think that they wouldn't, you know, the rules, they didn't break the rules then. The rules kind of crossed the line for them, and they were forced to liquidate their interest in Rangers and Basel and Slavia Prague and, you know, 3 or 4 other clubs. And so I think that now that the rules have completely loosened on that regard, and if the UEFA, the guy Seferin, stays in charge for over his 3rd term, and there's a whole scandal about that that's emerging now out of UEFA today, but if he does get his way and gets to stay longer, then the rules on multi-club ownership will loosen even further. And I think that Daniel Levy will look at that as the next phase.
Mm.
And so I don't expect us to sell. I don't expect the new owner to come in anytime soon. I don't expect ENIC to liquidate unless there's a ridiculous valuation. But like I say, I think when it comes to these kind of sugar daddy, or like these people that want to get involved, a lot of the areas in which they can add value has already been covered by Daniel Levy and ENIC. Like with the PIF fund going into Newcastle, you know, they can't just go and spend money because the club isn't generating it, right? We've seen that. I think they have half as much revenue as Tottenham do. So they can't go and spend money because the rules, they'll be in breach of the rules. What they can do is go and rebuild the entire stadium if they want to, and turn it into a something similar to what White Hart or the new Tottenham Stadium is. They can go and, you know, invest massive amounts into the infrastructure of the training ground. They can do all of those things that increases the valuation of Newcastle and finds new ways to generate revenue. But Tottenham have already covered all those boxes. We've already ticked all those things. So I don't know where the incentive is for a new owner, a sugar daddy type thing, to come into Tottenham. They can't really add that much value.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with the ownership. I don't think it's going to change. And I think the next interesting thing that will happen at Tottenham is we'll purchase a club. Maybe we'll have a connection with a Plymouth Argyle within the UK, something like that. And maybe we'll go and get a team in Belgium, or a team in Slovenia, or a team in, I don't know, Chile or somewhere. And we'll start that whole process. And that's a whole new fascinating thing that I'd like Tottenham to get to do. Really would like to.
I really hope so. It's like some of their systems used to be in play. It used to be called the feeder club system. Leighton Orient used to be that. We used to send players too. I'd love that to sort of come back in. Just quickly, Steve Combo. I don't think anyone's sort of, you know, purposely defaulting to a negative just to have discussions and stuff like that. I don't know whether you've been on Pluto or Mars, but, you know, that's the news that's out there. So if you don't like it, I don't know what you're expecting to tune in to see, especially when it's written in the title. So I'd reevaluate that comment next time. But James, where do you stand on Levy being, you know, not Levy, Joe Lewis pleading guilty? And, you know, do you think that the trust should sell the club for sort of bringing its name into disrepute? Or, you know, like the other guys, you know, Joe Lewis hasn't really had an impact on Spurs really ever. So it's sort of like, you don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, I must have probably missed what Sean said for half of it. But I know that Joe Lewis hasn't been anything to do with Tottenham really for many years. I can't remember the exact year where it went in the club side of it, went in his daughter's name kind of thing. So whatever happens to him, you know, whether he's eating prison dinners or he's able to buy his way out, to be honest with you, doesn't really bother me. I think it's a bit of a concern that, he is technically linked to the club and he's done something as, as bad as he has, which is complete and utter awfully bad fraud. I've run out of adjectives to describe it. At the end of the day, he's putting backhanders in the financial side of things. So I just think I don't think we should. ENIC needs to sell because of that bad name. It's a complete disassociation. Most people won't even know in America that Joe Lewis is to do with Tottenham and ENIC. So yeah, it doesn't really bother me too much. I'll be honest with you. I don't think there needs to be a panic about it. He could be seeing the rest of his days behind eating prison food, like I said.
Somehow, I still think he'll still have a cushy life, even if he does go down. Now, guys, moving on to the last topic of this evening. Where are we at with the transfer window? Of course, today marks 1 week left of the transfer window. Of course, it closes next Thursday, the 1st of February. We'll start with you on this one, James, because we haven't started with you all evening, my man. What do you think is left for Tottenham to do in terms of incomings and outgoings? I mean, we go back to Tyler here earlier on. He said, Højbjerg and Skip, get them on their way. Do you think we'll see much movement in terms of the midfield department even? And, Sessegnon still knocking about. Gill, apparently he's had real offers from Premier League clubs. What do you expect us to do in terms of outgoings and ingoings between now and the rest of the window?
I don't think we're going to see Højbjerg and Skip moved on this window. I think it's too soon, and I think our squad depth doesn't allow that unless we have some, centre mids lined up, which is unlikely with a week to go in the window. I think Højbjerg and Skip will be moved on in the summer. I also think that there may be a couple more loanees out. Obviously, we've seen Ashley Phillips and what the benefits that's rewarded already. Plymouth fans absolutely loving him. Apparently, he looks way above his years in terms of composure on the ball, and he's kept a clean sheet or two for them. So I could think my question mark on departures, I would be interested to see what you guys think, is Dorrington. Is he going to get any game time, or is it worth loaning him out potentially? I don't know if
apparently PA Media over the weekend just gone, what's his name, George, he put out an article basically saying that him and Donnelly are both set to stay around as part of the first team.
Incredible. I mean, I'm all for that. I mean, I want to see Dorrington get some minutes, but he hasn't got hardly. I don't think he's got a single Premier League minute yet. So it's like, it's great that he's on the bench, but we're not throwing him on. So I don't know. I am concerned that if we do keep those two players, are they going to even feature, especially with all our players coming back? Maybe when we were a bit more thin on the squad, they could have had some minutes, but we've just brought in a Dragusin. He's going to be sitting on the bench for half the time unless we do go to this 3 at the back. I can't see it personally, but we're going to have a class player in Dragusin on the bench who's going to be in the pecking order before Dorrington. But not to go down that hole too much. I think it would be nice to see one more signing, and that is an attacking signing. We've been obviously linked with Antonio Nusa. It looks likely to go ahead, but who knows in this market. But then again, I've heard things that we would loan him back till the summer. So I do think there's one or two more things to do, but I guess time will tell. We haven't got long. We've got a week, right?
Yeah, 1 week. 1 week. Me personally, I think we definitely need one more. I'd like one more midfielder being brought in here. But I do think it all hinges whether Spurs can get a cash deal for Højbjerg, with a lot of teams sort of financially up the creek, and Europe doesn't have a lot of money to spend usually anyway. We might not get that deal done, so it might affect the rest of the window. Soren, where are you at with the rest of this window? Are you okay with what we've done so far, and what for you is left to do?
The famous words from Sean would be, in the window, I would give it. I think the window's been bloody good. We've got 2 players in that we really needed. Everybody that's downing on Werner, I think it's a no-brainer deal. I think it's a good one. His finishing might not be the greatest, but it can play and it can do a good job for us. Dragusin, he's that much needed backup for our centre backs. I do think Noosa will be done today or tomorrow or within the next few days. I think that's pretty much happening. Don't see Højbjerg going out, and I don't see Skippy going out. I don't see Skippy being sold in the summer neither. I think we'll keep him. I'm not saying I want to keep him, but I just think we will. I do.
Sorry, and I've got to hear the words. I've got to hear the words you replicated from Sean, because it was so good. It cut out.
Thus far.
Okay.
Thus far.
No, it's not this big. I'm not saying that. No, it's one of those. I think it's been a very good window, and I think, you know, for everybody whinging that we're not spending millions and millions and getting all these top players in, it's not going to happen. Let's be realistic. I'd like to see a player go out and a player come in. I mean, I'd like to see Lo Celso go, to be honest with you, because as much as I do think there's a player in there, he's just injured too much. And it's a shame. If we could keep him fit, then I'd love for him to stay. But I think we'd probably get rid of Lo Celso if we could. I think Brian Hill will go. I wouldn't be surprised to see Brian Hill go. But I don't really, other than Noosa, I don't see anybody else coming in, unless there's a last minute deadline day type deal where we just can't say no. There's no hope of Conor Gallagher coming. I don't see that ever happening. So yeah, I think our transfer window's basically done. There'll be an odd one go out maybe, and some left field player probably on deadline day. But I don't think it's going to be anything where we're all going to jaw dropping, damn, how did we manage to sign him type thing. I think the big window is going to be the summer. I think that's going to be a big window for us. I really do.
I've got to pick up. I've got to pick up on Lo Celso. I mean, I completely disagree. I think we have to keep Lo Celso just quickly, because if you think about when we lost Maddison, right, to injury, Gio Lo Celso, like him or not, think he is injury prone, right? There's no getting around that. But he stepped up to the plate where we needed a creator. Even when we were playing Man United, we lacked that creator. We lacked
What's the
a
point
10.
in having a backup when the backup's never ready to play because he's injured? We've got Kulusevski now who can play in that position. So, I do agree with you. If we could keep him fit, I wouldn't sell him. Definitely wouldn't sell him. But if it's a case of getting rid of Lo Celso and getting somebody else in that might be fit, then I'm sorry, I would rather do that, because, like I say, what's the point in having a backup who's injured all the time? It kind of doesn't make sense.
But also, Soren, how good was he over those few games when we lost?
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I think he's a great player, but he's always injured. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think realistically there's no replacement.
I was just going to say, I fully agree with you. Fully agree with you. But only if he's not injured. This is what I'm saying. It's kind of pointless having a backup we need a backup because he's injured. So that's all I'm saying.
It's like when people say to me, "Oh, let's keep Sessegnon's backup." Backup for what? I mean, he's always absolutely he's always injured. Look, I get what James is saying. He had a couple of okay games in there, but I wouldn't go and say they were outrageously brilliant games. A lot of times he was passing the ball in front of their backline and their midfield 5-yard passes, and he's the guy that you're looking at to provide what Maddison provides. And for me, I think, okay, he scored against Man City, but apart from that, I think he's been absolutely bang average in terms of when he stepped in. And I'm with Soren. If there was a cash offer on the table this January, I take it and I'll go and reinvest it, because chances, you also got to look back at what Gio Lo Celso has offered Tottenham for the 4 or 5 years that he's been contracted here, and how many injuries he's carried, not only at Tottenham, but on the loan spell. You can't keep carrying people like that around this squad. If we want to move on and really compete and really go and win things, they have to be cut, regardless of the circumstance.
No, I get the overall picture, and I really do. Like, over the 4 years he's been here, he hasn't been a world beater. But at the same time, I'm being realistic from this window. Soren said about maybe getting rid of Lo Celso this window, for example. Who would we bring in as a replacement. We've got to be realistic about this. If we did offload Lo Celso to Barcelona, who were offering peanuts, by the way, for him, not enough, would we then be in trouble when Maddison gets injured again, potentially? Who do we have as a creator? We looked lost against Man United. We should have won that game, and we had no backup playmaker. That's what concerns me. That's why I wouldn't offload him yet.
But that kind of brings into your own argument that, you know, we didn't have anyone to back it up because injuries, again, you know, it's Lo Celso's injured, who's the backup. Kulusevski was obviously ill for that one, which was just, you know, a poor thing, but Kulu would have played in that position. So, you know, that's where we say, well, if Lo Celso is the backup, but he's injured, what's the point in him being the backup? But yeah, I mean, I do agree with you that, you know, if he can play, he's worth keeping, definitely. But to me, he's the one that I would try and get rid of and bring a backup in, you know, instead of him, rather than Højbjerg. But you know, I just don't think long term he's going to be at the club, which is a shame because I think he is a good player. You know, I do like the player. I just think, what's the point?
Yeah, I completely agree with it as well. Johnny, where are you at with what's left to do this transfer window in terms of outgoings and incomings? I mean, would you like? I know you sort of alluded that you don't really want to see Spurs spend any more money this window. You sort of want them to sort of harness that all together for the summer. But
I didn't mean that. I just mean I wouldn't mind a loan deal. I'd prefer to see. I'd prefer to see us do something that I'm happy to do the Noosa deal and that get that done. You know, whatever, that's fine. I'd love that. But in terms of bringing something in, I just want Tottenham to do what they think is in the best interest of the football club. And if they think that there's a sniff of a better opportunity in the summer because of things we've already spoken about, then I'm more than okay with us holding fire, keeping Højbjerg. You know, because the problem is, before you can move someone out, before you can move someone in, you have to move someone out in the midfield. In terms of the Lo Celso debate, I actually lean into. I agree more with Soren. I think that he's a good player, and I like him, but he is injury prone, and in the summer he will have 12 months left on his contract, and you know there might be 10 million quid's worth of value there that you can liquidate, or 12 million, something like that. So. If you can, then go and get someone who's a bit more, capable of staying fit. So I agree with James and I agree with Son. I agree with you, Dave, as well, that he's a good player. I just think he doesn't play enough. So that's an issue.
Sean, who I don't think he's back up 10?
I think he's an okay player.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I think he's done pretty well this season. I was surprised with his efforts this season. I thought he was pretty good, and he looked happy as well. He looked generally quite happy. So. Which is a rarity for him. In terms of like other people, like I said, I don't particularly want Conor Gallagher, and I think it's going to be difficult to find someone to buy Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. You know, I think he's going to be. I don't mind the Conor Gallagher thing. I keep going back and forth on this. Like when the news first broke, I was like, I'm up for it. I really am. I like him. He makes sense, and I can still see the logic of the deal. I just think that there's a lot more downside now than I'd previously kind of baked into my opinion on it. So. I'm okay with it, but not over the moon by it. But I also think we're going to need to move someone out. And Højbjerg, you know, I was saying this on my video this morning. He wants to go to a top team. He doesn't want to go to a Fulham. He had the chance to go to Fulham in the summer, didn't want to go. Right? So he thinks he's capable of eating at the top table. Fair enough, but you then have to find the club that wants him within the pool of teams that are left that he wants to play for. That's not easy. And how many of them have got money? Not that many. So I don't see him leaving this January, which makes it even impossible for us to bring somebody else in. So therefore, when all that's said and done, I guess he's staying, and I'm okay with it until the summer.
Do you know what?
Quickly, Dave, if we could bring in a new position, I'd love to see us with a new medical team, because that was shocking. You know, I think our medical team needs a backup, never mind anything else, because our history of problems is diabolical.
Yeah, it's shocking. Shocking. I believe Jeff, what is it? Jeff Scott or something like that is the person over the whole lot. He's been at the club for since, 2007 and probably, even beyond then, so maybe they could do a change in that department. Someone maybe leading the sort of how they implement all the medical science and welfare of players and that nowadays. I'll definitely be up for that, because the amount of injuries we carry, regardless of the system, regardless of the manager, is nowhere near good enough. And it's every season now. Last season, you think with all the injuries under Conte, you're bemoaning your luck, and here we are again this season. I'm absolutely sort of fed up with it. Just quickly, for me, I think I would love Tottenham if they could to bring in another winger, which is very probably highly unlikely in this window after bringing in Werner on loan. Striker, which is very unlikely after bringing Werner in on. He sort of covered both. But if there was an opportunity, I would like Spurs to maybe grab one more midfielder as well. You look at Bentancur and Maddison, there's probably going to be knock-on effects from the long injury layoffs, and probably will end up sort of picking up a knock between now and the end of the season again. And for me, I just think there's an opportunity there to really try and cement ourselves with top four. I did say coming into the window, I wanted Tottenham to strengthen right throughout the spine of the team. They're bringing this centre midfielder that we've done what I've asked them to do. But for me, it has to be a player that's in top of their radar if it's available. If not, what I don't want them to do is panic and go and clog up the system. Bring someone else in here, which then affects what you're going to do in that position, come the summer. So for me, it has to be a player that is already on the scouting list that they do want to bring in. Well, look, guys, I did promise I'll be here an hour. I kept you an hour and 20, so I do apologise for that. But we'll go around, let everyone plug themselves and where they can be found. Shawnee, what's coming out either tonight or tomorrow on the Spurs Talk Show?
I'm going to try and get out with the dog in the morning and squeeze in a preview, or if there is some news about Noosa or whatever, then I'll obviously just bang that drum as hard as I can, like I do every day. And then obviously I'm going to the game tomorrow night, so I will be recording fan cams afterwards. So if anybody's watching who's going to the game and fancies, here you go, James. You going to the game, James? Yeah, great, awesome. Love to get you on the fan cam,
yep.
And then I'll be putting them up when I get home at about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. So if you're still up at that point, buzzing from the result either way, then keep a lookout for the fan cams, and yeah, drop a like and subscribe to everybody that's on the fan cams, and obviously to James and to Soren and to Dave right now. But appreciate you having me on, Dave. Always enjoy the chats on this channel, the debates, and appreciate seeing Soren and James again, and Jack as well.
No, look, I appreciate you giving up your time all these, Thursdays to be able to come on here. Look, I said the first one back in quite some time, I'd make it a nice, soft, easy one. But don't worry, Sean, next week, instead of hosting, I'll be back debating. So I'll get you fired up a little bit more, my man, and we'll take it from there. But everyone, please check out Sean. He's absolutely smashing YouTube right now. Get over there if you haven't and get the support behind him. Jamesy boy, where can you be found?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Dave. Completely appreciate the invite. It's been a little while, and it was good to have you on my channel earlier, mate. You guys can find me and Jack over at Spurs Related. We are posting a vlog tomorrow, as I just said. We are both at the game. We're doing a little interesting vlog this time. Normally we've got Jack's perspective. We're going to have Jack's perspective in this season ticket spot, and we're gonna have my perspective in the premium section. So it's sort of like
oh, hello, look, he's sneaking that in. Sitting in the prawn sandwich area, a little bit of champagne.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
No, it's it should be a good one, just to sort of highlight the difference in where you sit in the stadium, and I'm sure there'll be some fan reactions in there as well. I'll try and get Sean in the vlog if I can find him before the game, but no, we've got all sorts coming up on there. Jack does his little walking and talkings, inspired by the man above me most days. And yeah, we've got loads of content coming in on Spurs Related, daily content. So get over there, smash the subscribe, and of course, smash the subscribe to these three great channels as well.
Well, thank you very much for your time as well this evening, Jamesy. I really do appreciate it. And guys, get over and check out the 45-minute show that we done on Spurs Related, just sort of building up to tomorrow's game. So make sure you get over and check out Spurs Related, smash that subscribe button and show them the support. And same with Shawnee again, because the guys are very generous to give up their time for us this evening. And I know a lot of you people out there are enjoying it as well. You put in the chat saying thank you and great guests. So big yourselves up. Soren, is there anything you want to promote or plug or anything like that, my man?
No, I mean, I just spend my time watching the Bugsy show with the video bomber Sean Butler. Don't know why he has to keep coming on it every day. You know, we just want to know. But no, I mean, look, I'm just a Spurs fan that loves talking about my club. Happy to join these chats and give my opinion, and that's what it's all about. All I want to say is, can't wait for the next round of the FA Cup when we smash Man City tomorrow night.
Love
Nice.
it.
Oh, I really do hope so.
I
I
hope.
really do hope so. You know, it's a real opportunity to send out a statement for what that we mean business second half of the season. Guys, just quickly, you know, I've seen Soren a hell of a lot on Sean's channel. He's an absolute great contributor to shows, great opinions and stuff like that. So everyone big him up, and you know, appreciate his time in the comments, because as you can see, he's multitasking. He's working and streaming. So fair play to the guy. But
He's
make
not
sure you
working.
big him up.
That's his garage. No, it is. It's not his office. That's his garage. That's his like his man cave. It's
Dave, he's
amazing.
not at like a 24/7 liqueur store. Like he's like selling stuff while he's on stream. Like just put
Hang
something.
on,
through
are
the
you
till while
joking
we're
with me,
here.
or is he actually not working in an off license? Or
No,
owning the off-
no, that's his garage. Dave's frozen.
No, I'm just genuinely shocked.
No, he's got that's your like your life's investments, right? So, and that's where your money's gone, sort of thing.
This is why I try to come on these streams so I can keep sober, so I'm not drinking. I have to stay sober. So it's actually, you're saving my life. But no, this is home.
It's home,
No,
yeah.
Dave, it's actually a Tesco Express, mate. He's about to put some through the self scanner in a minute.
He's got more balls there than Tesco Express. Anyway, I genuinely thought Soren ran an off license. Jesus. Perception. I'm going to have to get my background sorted out. I suppose off the back of that, I can be anything I want to be, eh? Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant. And big up Dermotron as well with the super sticker saying thank you very much. Really do appreciate it. Guys, in the comments, though, let me know if you've also been fooled by Soren as well. The great magician. Soren, the son of, what is it, Dynamo the Magician. We've now got Soren. But guys, big yourselves up. Really appreciate your time. You guys in the chat also really appreciate your time this evening to take time out of your evening and listen to us and enjoy the show as well. Also want to say a massive thank you to Paul Markey, the missus, Mick Vickers as well, and also the Tron, Romoyles, whatever name he's got on himself nowadays as well. Big yourselves up for the support. And
Has he
make sure
changed
you
his name?
look to these guys. Huh?
Has Dermotron changed his name again?
He's a new day every week. He pretends to be something different every day, doesn't he? You know, Romoyles, the Tron, you know, what will he be next week? Oh, the Prophet, you know, the Prophet, that's one as well. I mean, I think he just wakes up and whatever first word comes into his head, he proclaims himself to be. But big up, Dermot. We love you for it, my man. Never, ever
Dave,
change.
can we,
Guys, that's it from us. Go on.
Dave, can we get some score predictions very quickly for everyone? Because I want to hold Sean accountable for his score prediction. I'm interested to see what everyone thinks as well.
Okay, okay, let's go around the houses.
Yeah, I think I said 3-2 Tottenham.
Sorry?
I think City are going to score at our place, but I'm going to go and contradict myself saying that and say 2-0. Well, you know, just for the sake of it. But I do want to say something, because Sean took his hat off the other day on a stream, and I can't remember whose it was, and they were calling him all sorts. That is Mickey Flanagan. I don't care what you say.
Yes.
That is Mickey Flanagan.
What a comedian.
Tomorrow we're going out. We're going out.
What a comedian.
I hope we're not bloody going out, mate.
No,
Honestly.
we're going in. We're staying in. We're staying
in the hat, mate. Yeah.
No, I'm going to go 2-0, but as long as, if we go out and we've shown some heart, then I'm not bothered. Yeah, well, I am bothered, but you know, yeah, I'm going to go with 2-0. I feel lucky.
I don't know what you're on about, Soren. If we go out, I'm going to be crying my eyes out, to be honest with you. Like, giving it heart or not, I'm going to be
I'd rather go out. I'd rather go out tomorrow than in the semi-final, though.
Yeah, true.
The City, then a lesser team later on. At least, you know, at least we can say we got beat